Hello, hello. Welcome to I Feel Fat Today. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. Thank you for joining me for another episode. As always, subscribe to I Feel Fat Today on YouTube. At the time of recording this, we have 359 subscribers. Get us up to 360 and beyond. It'd be great. What am I saying? Please subscribe to us on YouTube, where we have full video episodes like the one you're watching right now. Then head over to Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show over there. That would be super helpful. And you can send us an email at ifeelfattoday@gmail.com if you would like any advice or tell me what you think. You can read it here on the podcast. Follow us on social media at I Feel Fat Today for the show page, and at Hello, This is Kelly for me, your host, Kelly Taylor. Okay, I had a few things that I wanted to talk about, but I'm only going to talk about one of them and then save the rest for next week's episode. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then we'll go into it with our guest this week. Okay, so what of the few things I want to talk about? Okay, actually, first, number one, let me say that in last week's episode, I brought up the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, the documentary, and how it made me feel and a certain aspect of it. I'm seeing a lot more discourse about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders on TikTok. And I have to say, something I don't think I articulated last week was that I really think the women should get paid those cheerleaders. I'll never understand that. The woman that is the CEO of the company, of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleading company, who is a Nepo baby, is like a billionaire. If not a billionaire, then very close to being a billionaire. And she just thinks that these women should get paid in backhanded compliments and being told well, you're not you're looking a little chubby today, but you can still fit in the uniform. So that's basically what they get paid in. So they should get paid actual salaries for being performers. It makes no sense. So I wanted to say that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is I have an article here, a very quick, short article that I thought was funny from the New York Post that we can read and discuss. For the article this week, it is from the very credible New York Post, under the fashion and beauty section, and it's titled "Designers Slammed for I Heart Ozempic Shirt." Fashionistas did not heart this collection. Provocative clubwear brand Namelia triggered uproar at Berlin Fashion Week last week after debuting an I Heart Ozempic shirt, with some calling the brand toxic and distasteful for playing off the controversial weight loss fad. In a statement to the Post, Namelia's co-creative director, Nan Lee, said their critics are missing the point. The tawdry tee is a piece of pop art commentary and satire, targeting the health and beauty industry's latest obsession with quick fix weight loss drugs. Namelia's spring-summer 2025 line, titled "Good Girl Gone Bad," very original, highlighted society's sordid obsession with celebrity gossip and paparazzi shots that dominated the culture in the early aughts, when ultra-thin was among the Von Dutch era it girls. The collection features bedazzled Ed Hardy designs, leather lace-up pants and miniskirts, barely there one pieces, and a slew of tees with slogans like "Fame Kills" and "Too Pretty for Rehab." In an attempt to be satirical with its abrasive Ozempic tank, a nod to the recent weight loss drug craze, has yielded nationwide shortages and a swell of rumors about which A-lister is taking the once weekly jab. The label seems to have missed the mark among the masses. Social media users slammed Namelia's for seemingly promoting eating disorders and unrealistic and potentially damaging beauty ideals. This brand has become way too influential in the past couple of years to be spreading such low, superficial, capitalistic, and toxic values, one user wrote in a lengthy diatribe on Instagram. Making a statement/joke, and the statement is just "eating disorders are cool and fun and won't ruin your life at all," sneered one critic. "Snooze. What a poor and distasteful joke. Such a shame," commented another. How can you be empowering women by normalizing the use of medicine that is scarce, that many people do need to live healthily? What the fuck? Really? Are you promoting this? Someone else said in disbelief. Lee told the Post he believes that fashion is a visual tool for political and cultural statements and that could provoke discussions about the current culture. The Ozempic craze for us has been played out in a double standard in pop culture, Lee says. On one side, celebrities and their followers are willing to do anything they can to fit the still prevalent super slim body ideal in pop culture. But on the other side, nobody is willing to admit to abusing medication to meet the often unrealistic expectations of current beauty standards. Since the Ozempic boom, there has been a newfound cultural glorification of thinness, as more celebrities are seemingly shrinking their silhouettes, and those who cannot afford the costly prescription resort to knockoff medication and DIY hacks for budget weight loss. The semaglutide drug, which was initially manufactured for those with type 2 diabetes, has also been reported to cause an array of side effects in users, such as eye conditions or a sunken face. Svelte frames were also in vogue during the heyday of indie sleaze and the Y2K in the 90s and 2000s, to which Namilia's collection pays homage to the Y2K trucker hats, shrunken rhinestone bedazzled baby tees, and pink leopard print fabric. Trashy tramp stamps and belly button piercings are making a comeback, while Brat Summer, inspired by Charlie XCX's club album Brat, is defined as a pack of cigs, a Bic lighter, and a strappy white top with no bra. Is gaining viral popularity among Gen Z and self-proclaimed brats. Namilia asks why pop culture pushes us to our breaking points for recognition, attention, and some kind of belonging. Why does society desperately categorize us into stereotypes, only to be disappointed when we fail to fully live up to those impossible standards? The brand wrote on Instagram. Why do we love to watch others fail? Okay, so that was a little article on the New York Post about an I Heart Ozempic tank top at Berlin Fashion Week. First thing I'll say is I know I butchered the name of the brand and the name of the designer, so apologies for that. And what I have to say about this is if people are getting upset about a tank top that says I Heart Ozempic, they're not paying attention to what else is happening in the world, number one. And number two, I think that based on the sound and look, because there's photos here of the fashion show, it fit perfectly into the collection. And I think also speaks to how thinness never actually went out. Like the article said that with the rise of Ozempic, there's more of a focus and adoration for thinness, and it's like that never went away. Like, yeah, Lizzo had a few good songs for some time there during the pandemic, and maybe we all forgot that we have to be skinny because of lockdown in 2020, but by 2022 we were back in full swing and thinness was back. So I'm not understanding this whole like, oh, Ozempic is making us think that thinness is important. It's like, no, thinness has always been important. It has never gone out of style. And now it's just that because of Ozempic, people that were already thin are able to get thinner. Now, my only critique for this fashion show is that instead of having an I Heart Ozempic tank top come out on a really skinny model, they should have had a very much plus size model, like someone that you don't really see, someone that you don't see on Fashion Week runways should have come out in a plus size version of the outfit from the designer with the tank top that says I Heart Ozempic. I am more than willing to audition for that role next time. That I think would have been the cherry on top of this fashion show. Everybody relax. I don't know what people on TikTok are going to say about that. They probably wouldn't agree with this sentiment, but What are we even talking about? Why is this something people get upset about? It's a tank top. I want to buy it. I think I want to buy it, but they probably don't make it in my size. And that's the real issue. I have some other stuff I want to talk about, but I think I'm going to wait for next week. It maybe will not be as culturally relevant, but we'll wait. We'll wait. Okay. Anything else I want to say about this? No. Just that brand that I mispronounced should send me that shirt. Okay. We'll just keep pushing along. All right. I have a guest this week, and we had a really great conversation. We have a lot in common, which was fun to realize. She is a stand-up comedian. Please welcome Sara Shipley.
It has been my mission. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're on. We're on.
It has been my mission to like get him to allow me to pick him up.
Oh yeah.
And because he's an old man, I think he's like 13.
Oh, and that's like mine.
He's never been a pickup cat. And I just want to
smother him.
So we've been doing tricks, and the last trick after he's gotten some treats is me picking him up. So he will tolerate it for a certain amount of seconds, and then he's like, bitch, give me my treat.
I can't believe your cat can do tricks.
He can do sit, and he can like get up on his back legs.
Oh my God.
It's up, and then he'll do the grand finale is a twirl, a sit, and then up.
Wow, that's impressive.
And for cheese, if I get the cheese out, he'll just spin, sit, and do it. He's like, I really want the cheese.
I love that.
It makes me laugh every time. We do it every day. It makes me laugh every single day.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
But then I got to thinking, like, I like to think, and this is probably a joke I will try on stage at some point. If I were a man, I'd like to think that I'd be good to women, but I'm fucking grooming this cat to allow me to manhandle it.
Yeah. I just want you to be able to touch you.
I want to touch you the way I want to touch you.
You're just trying to touch a 13-year-old.
It's so fucked up, but it makes me so happy.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming over, Sara.
Hey.
So where are you from?
I am originally from the Western New York area. I've had to stop saying upstate because people don't know, but like Rochester area, just outside of Rochester.
Okay, awesome. How long have you been in the city?
October will be 2 years.
Oh wow. Oh, okay. How are you liking it?
I like it. This is not a place I would be if I wasn't doing comedy. So it's not. Again, I'm a homebody. Yeah. I don't love the hang or like the grind of like. So. But I mean, I don't know. It's constantly like a recalibrating of like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I know. I hate that feeling of what am I doing? So that's why I try to like stay the course.
Yeah.
Whatever the course is.
Yeah.
And then when I like want to have a night where I just need to chill, I feel really bad about it.
I know. I've been much better at that. Like I'm trying to balance the scale, but the more I do less and like crafting or spending time with animals or like the more I'm like, oh, do I really want to be doing the other shit? Like I could just be happy all the time. Like, what am I doing?
I know.
So it's hard to kind of balance everything.
Yeah. And it's because I feel like when you give something up, it's like, well, now I'm afraid that this is going to cause a hole in my soul.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, let's talk about dieting.
Yeah. Okay.
When was the concept of dieting introduced to you? Like, do you have like a moment that you remember like, oh, this is something I need to be aware of?
My own hair was stuck on that. You sent like a list of questions about food, and I had never really thought too much about it. But then as I was reading the questions, I'm like, oh shit, I think there was a lot of, like, my mom never was too focused on diet. Like, we're from an Italian household.
Okay.
Like, eat. Like, that was our culture. Like, you'd say, I don't want any more, and you'd still get some more. That's my grandma. So we always were like eating, always had food around. All of the kids were athletic. Mm-hmm. So we were always like really active. Yeah. So it wasn't really on my brain that's like, you had to restrict or not eat. But I do think that there was a point where I think it was like a money thing where we weren't allowed to have certain things. My mom was really also like, she had it in her brain in the 80s and 90s that like hot dogs, sodium nitrate, like cancer causing, like I don't know how she had that in her brain.
She was ahead of the curve.
So like we could eat certain things, but like in very strict moderation. Like red hot dogs were like a no. we could have like Pop-Tarts, but like one of the Pop-Tarts, you couldn't have both of the Pop-Tarts. Or like she'd buy things as a treat. But it's like, so I always was like focused on food because of that, I think.
Right, because there were so many rules put around it.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a diet.
Yeah, it
like
was
fat or not fat. It was like chemicals or not chemicals.
Yeah, which is pretty valid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I remember she used to have these like, I think it now would be like a protein bar type of thing, but I think they were like some kind of marketed towards women and like fat loss.
Yeah.
But they basically were like tasted like candy bars.
Right.
And so I would like sneak them out of the cupboard because I was like, these are delicious. But I knew in my brain, it's like, oh, I'm not supposed to have these because they're my mom's.
Yeah, like this is like adult. This
and
is
I had to like, I would wake up in the morning and be like, I really want one of those today.
An adult woman. No, I actually know. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about of there being like a diet food and it being like delicious. I think I have one of those, like, you know, delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, delicious is relative, but like, I remember it was like this really small bar, and it was almost like a healthy Twix, but it wasn't marketed like a Twix, but it was like a nougat and then like a caramel on top, but just like the diet version. And I was like addicted, like chemically addicted to those.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any siblings?
2 older brothers.
Okay. You're the youngest. And you all did sports?
My oldest was a little less athletic. He had some chronic illness as a youngster. He had colitis.
Oh, wow.
So he played, and then I think he stopped playing in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other brother and I continued to play through college.
So your brother having that medical issue, I guess, that diet is a huge part of that.
Huge part.
So did that come into like a factor in the house of like making food, or was he already older by then?
He was probably like in high school. It was really bad. So we were all in high school at the same time.
Okay.
I was a freshman. My brother Ryan was a sophomore and Ned was a senior. Okay. So we were all lumped. Like,
yeah.
And I don't remember, like we ate really healthy anyway. But I just remember like him having like special, allowances at school. Like,
oh, okay.
You know, he could use like special bathrooms, and like I didn't understand what colitis was necessarily, but I knew like oh, sometimes he doesn't feel good,
right?
Or like he needs to lay down, or like he's taking medicine, or he's on he was on like steroids.
Oh,
so
those are rough.
He had a rough time, and he was pretty fat.
Yeah,
just from the steroids.
Yep.
But there wasn't any like consciousness about food or anything outside of the normal food stuff.
Is that in remission now for him, or is he still?
I think he. So this is. I remember. They wanted at one point to remove a large section of his intestine. Like it was really bad.
Really bad.
And last case, like shot in the dark. They took him to a chiropractor, and that was what got him into remission.
That's crazy. You know, and like I feel like people like to just lump everything into, like, if you were to ask my parents or my grandparents about chiropractors and what they do, they would be like, that's bogus. Yes. That's not real. But like I have one of my brothers goes to a chiropractor and like swears by it. So it's all or nothing thinking for people, I feel like.
And I think people have come around to it. Mm-hmm. If you've had good experiences, they're like, oh. But even back then, like my mom would tell his medical doctors, and they would be like, you're crazy, but like whatever makes you feel good. Yeah,
whatever you want to do.
But like, I mean, he went from them literally wanting to remove a large section of his body to being like, oh, he's off his medication and he's doing fine.
I've literally never heard of that, but that's so interesting.
Yeah. The way they explain it is like literally every part of your spine is linked to nerves, and so if something's out of whack and it's sending signals to your digestion or your stomach or whatever, or your intestines, inflammation, I don't know. But then my mom, I think, really blamed herself, because in her mind, she's like, okay, his spine caused this problem. And she had it in her brain that like she dropped him at one point. Or,
oh my God.
Or like, you know, set him down too hard.
Yeah.
And like she caused his colitis, which, okay, maybe that is a link to what happened.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, you can't.
Yeah, you can't. You gotta give yourself a break. You can't. That's like being like, oh, if only I hadn't left to go to the grocery store, I wouldn't have gotten to that fender bender. Yeah. It's like, well, you needed food in the fridge. And that's, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I think like she always treated him a little, because he was obviously a very sick child.
Right.
But also she blamed herself for causing this very severe illness in her child. So, yeah, it was not great.
Oh, that's such a burden.
Yeah.
So did your mom diet a lot?
I don't remember her dieting ever, honestly. And to her credit, I never really heard her talk badly about her body, or it really never occurred to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she ever like felt that behind closed doors, or if she consciously did or didn't.
Right.
But
she didn't put it on you.
She didn't.
That's great.
And I think it was just a different time too in the 90s. Like we didn't have immediate access to what we looked like all the time. Like it just didn't occur to me to really be self-critical. We didn't have cameras on our phones. We didn't have a cell phone. We didn't, if you took a photo of yourself, we may get it developed like 6 months later.
Yeah, no,
so
absolutely.
Like, oh, that dress did not look great. But it's like you wouldn't, it's already, you're so beyond past it. You wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah, and the whole idea of getting photos developed later, it's like there is something that happens to me where like let's say we do a show, right? And there's like someone there taking photos, or just someone boomerangs you, whatever. And I get off stage and I look at that photo, I like avert my eyes. Like I immediately hate it.
Yeah.
But then if I were to wait 6 months and go back and look at that photo, for some reason the photo is just not as bad as I remember it.
No.
And I totally think that this is something that, since like access to cameras and like seeing photos right away is relatively new, we're so much more critical of ourselves only in that, like, that is just one facet of the many ways we have the ability to be so much more critical of ourselves. Because as to your point of like getting a photo developed, like there's something psychologically that your brain does when you see a photo of yourself in the moment where like you almost have to be disparaging about it. I'm not saying everybody's like horrific to themselves when they see a photo. I know personally for me, I am. Yeah. But if I get film developed and I look back at the photos, I'm way less harsh on myself because it actually doesn't look as bad to me.
No, because like if you went back and if you went back to the moment in your brain where like, oh, that's when I looked my worst. If you went back and looked at it, you're like, oh, yeah, actually, that's not at all how I remembered it.
Yeah.
It's not at all what you thought it was.
Yeah. I actually, how Facebook will bring memories up from like this day 15 years ago. Normally everything's deleted because it's like the most embarrassing statuses I've ever posted, Yeah. But sometimes like photos that I've been tagged in from the past like are still up there because it's like I haven't removed the tag or whatever. And today I was just looking at a photo of me from, I must have been a junior or a senior in high school, and it was 15 years ago. And it's like, I'm so thin, and so normal looking. And I literally looked at that photo of myself and remembered how I toiled over what outfit to wear to like go to Cheesecake Factory with my friends. And I literally remember being in that outfit, looking at a photo of it, like legitimately wondering if I would qualify for like gastric bypass surgery. And I was the most normal, like I can't explain. I'll have to remember to like screenshot it so I can like post it. Like it's insane what our brains will do to convince us that, we don't look like how we want to look or whatever. Yeah. So for you did sports. What sports?
I played volleyball and basketball through high school and college. I played both in college.
Wow. You played both in college?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
Constantly like Nazareth College. It's in Rochester. It's a Division III school.
Wow.
So it's basically like college or high school.
Yeah.
You just kind of move.
Yeah.
Anybody could have played. It wasn't a big deal.
So it sounds like you weren't hard on yourself for the way that you looked, but were you hard on yourself for like your performance either in sports or academically?
I wasn't really hard on myself about like skinny or fat or but there were certain like features that I was like mortified by.
Really?
Like I had terrible cystic acne.
Oh, that's
so
really
like
rough.
I was fixated on that. Like, everything else didn't matter. It was like I don't want to leave the house. I am so embarrassed about my skin.
Yeah.
And I remember just being weird about like my hands, or like I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah. I remember in high school, I don't know. I remember seeing I would just compare myself to the other girls who were just like, oh, that's what perfect is. I'm not that. But it's like, now I look back and I'm like, oh, why was I ever weird about my hands? Like they're just hands.
No,
like
I so feel that.
But it wasn't necessarily my body shape, but there were definitely parts of myself that I was like, ugh.
Well, that's something that I learned. It's like I remember being young and thinking like I'm the only person that feels this way. And then once I met people like in college that like would talk about stuff like it's like that scene in Mean Girls when like they're over at Regina George's house and like they're looking at themselves in the mirror being like, oh, I need to get a nose job. It's like, no, please, like these shoulders, like I'm like a linebacker. Like, and I remember watching that being like, oh yeah, like everybody feels horrible about
something, and it can be the most ridiculous thing. Like, oh, my ears are angled the weird way, and it's like no one else would ever possibly look at that and think that thing. Yeah, but you're gonna just only see that when you look at a photo or like look at yourself.
And when because there are people that will notice that stuff, but it's because they're so hypercritical of themselves,
their own,
that's why they're noticing it. And that's another thing that once you learn that, you're like, oh, okay.
Everyone has shit. Everyone is unhappy.
Yeah, no. Like everyone's just like really uncomfortable.
And of course, we live in a world where we do roast battles, and people are like fixated on your photo to like be like, what can I possibly say about this person? Yep. So they find the one thing, or they know, So it's like it's just like a caricature or like a cartoon just blown up. It's not even that bad.
So with you doing sports in college, that's intense.
Yeah.
That's so take me through like what a normal day would be like as a person, an athlete, a collegiate athlete. Was it different from like volleyball to basketball? Are those different seasons?
Yeah, volleyball was fall and then basketball was winter. Okay. So I would get to school about at least 2 weeks early. So like mid-August or early August. I think everyone came back like end of August. I forget exactly, but I got there early, and then we'd have preseason, and then school would start, and then you'd have your classes during the day, and then usually in the evening was practice. And that would continue on, and then mid-October basketball started, and volleyball still went through like end of October. So there was a time where it overlapped.
Wow.
So I was doing school, one practice, maybe the other practice, eating, homework, whatever else. But then as I got like through college by my probably junior, senior year, they just trusted that I was going to be in shape. I was going to be ready. I knew the plays, so I didn't have to do both all the time. Okay. Or like they'd have lifting and I just wouldn't do some of the other things. But in the beginning I was like, I have to go to everything. I have to prove myself. I have to. So I would go, from practice to pick up to lifting or whatever else. Yeah. Yeah. But I think like I'm 41. I just turned 41.
Oh wow, happy birthday.
But I feel like I'm just now really understanding some aspects of myself that it's like I did kind of like beat myself up about certain things, not really understanding that it's like, oh, I have massive ADHD. Yeah. I think I might be slightly autistic. Like there's tons of like things at play. I have trauma that I didn't realize. So I'm like at 41 just really unpacking some of these things, but it's like I really do well when I'm so busy because I have to stay on top of my shit. And if I'm not like really to the minute sometimes about my schedule, I can put it off. I can, kind of get in freeze mode where I'm like anxious about doing the thing. But if I don't have time to think about being anxious about doing the thing, I just have to do it.
Yeah. I'm a procrastinator to the max, and it's the bane of my existence. I hate it. Like I literally like sometimes if I like around tax season.
Oh my God. I still have to do my taxes.
Girl, I've been there.
The deadline been there. Is July 15th. Yeah. Because I put an extension in. I have not looked at my taxes since I filed the extension.
Is your apartment so clean right now? Because my apartment is the cleanest.
When you have other
when I have to do my taxes. And by the way, do my taxes, send it to the tax accountant. Oh, that's literally what it is. Like I mean, like there's certain stuff that you have to like go through and be like, oh, this was like a comedy expense, whatever. But like for the most part, I used to be a 1099. So I'm repeating myself if listeners of the podcast already know this, but I literally would put my head in the sand, and I went like a few years like I'm just grateful for COVID. I think COVID kind of wiped the books as far as like, tax indiscretions, because it helped me get caught up. Like I literally got so caught up, and then like was able to get on a payment plan for what like I owed the IRS and all that stuff. I was able to work it out, but I feel like before COVID, I was like spinning my wheels so much that like having to sit and do taxes in 2018, like no, there was no sitting there. I was not doing my taxes in 2018 because I'd be so overwhelmed by everything going on in my life that I just like couldn't even fathom having to do a tax, like a task like that. It was just way too much for me. And it like, I remember I was like relaxing on the beach, like with friends or whatever, and being like, why can't I just chill right now? Like, how come I can't just relax? And then I remembered like taxes, and I was like, I'm never going to make myself feel like this ever again. I am getting this shit done. It is the worst feeling. I empathize greatly with you.
I just kind of discovered the concept of task debt. Are you familiar?
No.
So it's like if you have to do your taxes, like that's a looming thing that you have to do. For me, there are 6 other things I need to do before I can actually sit down and do them. I need to gather the receipts. I need to maybe input shit into my TurboTax or like scan the receipts or whatever. So I've got like 6 other things that I haven't done that I need to do in order to do the one thing that needs to get done. Or like in simpler terms, like if you need to do your dishes and they're in the sink, but you have a dishwasher that needs to be emptied. You need to empty the dishwasher first. You need to maybe straighten up your cabinet to make room for the dishes that need to go in. Yeah. And there might be 3 or 4 things to do before you can get to that cabinet. And then, but the thing that needs to get done has to wait because there's like, so it's like you can spin your wheels about all those other things. And like, there's so much anxiety about like, God, I just want to get my fucking sink empty, but I have all these, and then you get distracted doing those things. And then other things are more important.
I do like, and I know that it's like very popular and like even a thing that I talk about with my friends where we're all just diagnosing ourselves from TikTok, like, and I totally get the frustration for that of people doing that. But I do have to say, when I saw a depiction of somebody trying to leave the house, it's like POV, you're trying to leave the house, but you have ADHD, and it's just like all these things, and I'm like, no, I'm looking at myself. The stairs that we just walked up to get here, I do them double every day because I get downstairs and I'm like, shit, my AirPods, like, you know, and I have to go back upstairs. Like, literally, at this point, Joe knows that when I leave and say goodbye, I'm gonna pop back in a minute later, like 99.9% of the time. Yeah.
My roommate, the other day, literally, he said to me, he's like, you know how some people say they have ADHD? He's like, I can see that you have ADHD. Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly didn't realize that until like maybe 2 years ago, where it's like, oh, it's not normal for, you know, for simple tasks to be that like debilitating and overwhelming. And it's like,
and then I learned about decision paralysis. And executive functioning disorders. And I was like, I just thought I was a lazy piece of shit. Yeah. Like, you know, God.
I would, and I've said this before to people and they think I'm insane, but it's like, if in high school, if I had a uniform, I would have been so thrilled. Yeah. And if you could just get up and you have 2 things that you can choose from and you just put them on and you go to school. Right. Like, if I had a uniform as an adult and I could wear the same thing every day, like that would be so amazing. The simplicity of like, I don't have to think about this or just decide or like.
No, I wore a uniform to school from kindergarten through senior year of high school, and it made things so much easier. The only thing that sucked was if you didn't put it in the washing machine. You're like, fuck, I have nothing. Literally, I have nothing to wear. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah. So like that was the only downside. But yes, like not having the choice was pretty awesome.
Like sometimes I find that like deciding what to eat every fucking day is like, just, are you kidding? I need someone to be like, this is what we're eating. Yeah. And I gotta tell you, like, for me,
I had a roommate that pointed this out. She's like, for meals, like you'll be fine just like eating raw vegetables. And I'm like, yeah, like I'll just cut up I have some like a thing of iceberg that's gonna go bad. I'll have some celery or whatever, just like random veggies, especially because it's like I really like cold things. And if I'm in the mood for something cold and crunchy, like there's nothing better than like a cucumber,
Yeah.
right? So I would just eat that. And she's like, that's crazy that that's what you consider a meal. And then I started, it was really when Joe and I started living together where it was like I had to start thinking more about meals because like otherwise it would just be too separate all the time,
Yeah.
and like it really made me realize how like making a decision about like what to make for dinner is one thing, but figuring, okay, what would be good to make for the week so that I have groceries in the fridge. It's like, I couldn't believe it. Yesterday, I actually was compelled to go to Trader Joe's and like get food, but like I can't go with the list. Like I can have maybe an idea in mind of what would be good, but like I just go and I get random stuff, and then I come back here and I'm like, okay, with what I got, what can be pieced into meals or whatever, because it's if I'm working on a blank slate for literally anything, I can't do it. Like even when it comes to like writing, if I just sit down with a blank piece of paper, nothing's gonna get done. I'm just gonna doodle on the piece of paper. But if I have a writing prompt, then that gives me something to work off of.
Yeah, I'm similar. If I like will sit down and tinker with an existing joke, that's a better place for me to start, because then it'll just get me in that mindset and I can start writing newer things. But if I just was like, okay, what's funny? What do I want to say? Like, absolutely, it's never going to happen.
I have to open my phone. I have to look at headlines. I have to, without trying to make, completely work that isn't timeless or whatever. But I totally relate to that. Are you medicated?
It's so funny you ask. So today Scott called me at like probably 1. I was still in bed. And I was kind of like spiraling about a bunch of things I have been putting off for literal years. I had to make a dentist appointment.
Yep.
I needed to get a mammogram appointment. And there was a few other little things like through apartment. I had to call the guy to come snake our drain.
Yeah.
And it's like all these things were literally, I felt just paralyzed. And I've been saying this for a while. I had a medication for ADHD called Strattera, but it's also like antidepressant. And I've been saying it for a while. Like, I really think I need to start taking it again. And I don't know what it is about just the resistance about doing that, but I know it would be helpful for me.
Yeah.
And I really do have a resistance towards really letting myself get that help for some reason. I don't know what it is.
Asking for help is such a common issue that people have. Like people just in general have a hard time asking for help. Like I know for myself, if I have to delegate workout, like even at like my day job, I have the hardest time doing that and it's not because I don't think people are going to do a good job. It's just like, there's something about the omission of having to, get help. But then once you kind of realize, and this is what happened with me, once I realized that like, I have everything to gain by asking for help. Like my grocery store for example, I used to be like, if I can't make a list and if I can't figure out what I need and want, what's the point of going? Like, what's the point if I'm just going to get random stuff and it's all going to go bad? And then I realized, no, I can go to Trader Joe's. I can get random stuff, get the tried and true stuff I know that I like, bring it home, take a look at it, and then say, hey, Joe, can you place an order either for pickup or delivery at Whole Foods? And I just take his phone and I like get all the extra supplemental stuff. It's like, okay, I bought frozen falafel and tzatziki sauce at the Trader Joe's. Hey, Joe, go on Whole Foods, the Amazon app, and order tomatoes and pita bread. And like, so now we'll have falafel one night for dinner. And once I realized that just asking for help, just asking him to do an easy thing like that, like go onto the app and order the supplemental groceries, was major. So major. Yeah. Now, when it comes to giving yourself a break, and having that resistance to getting on medication, I so get that. Like I so get it. But The hesitation for me, I think, was more about like, I didn't come from like a medication heavy family. You know, like if anybody had to go on any kind of medication, it was very hush hush. Like I remember when my dad had to go on blood pressure medicine, and it was just like, don't tell your grandparents, you know? And like, and I kind of realized for me, like that's a lot of where my hesitation is, like to getting on stuff. And I remember, I'm not on anything now, but a few years ago, I went on Lexapro, and I remember like thinking to myself, like, I can't tell my mom. Like, my mom is going to be upset or annoyed that I'm, you know, taking this medication, because she has her own, you know, things with that. Like, she doesn't want to, obviously she has sort of reservations about medications and stuff. And so, if you dig a little deep, you might be able to see why you have, you know, this hesitation, because it's something you were on before.
Yeah. And I think I might have been on it for a few months, and I don't recall. It didn't hurt. I sure didn't feel worse.
Right.
And I think if I really looked at it, I'm sure I felt better.
Yeah. And
I don't know if it was something someone said or me just getting in my head that like I was changing my brain chemistry, or just like, I don't know. It's just irrational fear of like, what if I can't go back? What if I'm changing a thing? It's like,
I'm like, change it.
Change the
and
thing.
I don't ever want to go back.
I know.
You know what it was for me with Lexapro? I had like wanted to get off. I was just feeling like, I'm like, I think it's time. I've been on it for like 4 or 5 years. Like, I wonder what it would be like to get off. And then I don't know if there was a supply chain issue or what was happening, but there'd be instances where the pharmacy wouldn't have it, and this is Lexapro. It's not it's not Adderall. Like it's it's very easy to get. An issue with like the pharmacy didn't have it one time, and then the next month my insurance wasn't covering it, and I was like, I'm not paying like the pre-insurance price for this. And so I ended up kind of getting off of it, just like organically, but not in the way that you're supposed to, because you're supposed to taper. I just didn't, because like I'm like, I didn't have access to it. But the whole point of me bringing that up is to say, like, for me, if I'm on a medication that's working, but anything clerical or admin gets in the way, it's like, well, I guess that's no longer something that I do now.
Yeah, 100%.
Literally part of the reason why I opted to get an IUD for birth control was because I'm like, I fucking hate, I know it's not every month that you have to go to the pharmacy to get your birth control pills, but like sometimes they'll send you a 3-month supply, but then in 3 months I'm going to have to go to the fucking pharmacy, and I don't want to go.
So hard. Even like making the quick phone call.
Yes. It's too much.
It's just sometimes those little things feel like so heavy.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be something about like, if you really dig to the bottom, there has to be like a worthiness.
Yeah.
Of some sort. Like, I'm not worth one little phone call. Like my health and safety isn't worth one little phone call. Like there's got to be something in there. I know for myself, it's got to be that.
I know for me too, worthiness is like the root of my inability to better myself. I've had so many shitty jobs where I was working way too many hours, getting paid way too little, not getting things like health insurance benefits, and I still was spinning my wheels there and wouldn't ask for more. And another layered task is applying for a new job. Well, if I'm going to apply for a new job, I have to spruce up my resume. Well, if I have to spruce up my resume, I have to, the task debt, literally, that's literally what you were saying before. And it's just like, without us saying it or acknowledging it, we're saying subconsciously to ourselves, I'm not worth all of that.
Yeah, I can't.
It's crazy.
Easier to stay in this comfortable discomfort than to like do all that and maybe not even get a better thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Because there's something about survival. And this is like, I like therapy. I'm a therapy person. And I feel like some people may be resistant to therapy because they're like, well, I don't want to dredge up stuff from my childhood. I don't want you to tell me that my parents were bad. And it's like, no, that's not it. But the root of all of my issues trace back to my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have that too, because like we didn't come from a therapy household. I constantly heard my mom tell my dad that he needed therapy, and he'd be like, I don't. Like, there was totally something there about like I didn't know anybody who did therapy, so it's like, oh, I must be insane if I need therapy.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody should have therapy.
I know it, because it's like, don't you want to feel better? Like, that's my whole thing, is I just want to feel better. I want to stop beating myself up, because the uncomfortable discomfort that you brought up is like, I don't know. You know, the whole thing about online bed rotting?
Yeah.
Have you seen that? And you're good at it? You're good at bed rotting? I'm great at it.
I don't really, I don't allow myself to do it, but I do it.
Yeah.
I think I also recently think that I've started to uncover, like, I think I stay up way too late.
Same.
It might be 3 a.m. and I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just being awake.
Same.
But I think it's an ADHD trait where it's like at night there's nothing else I have to do. There's no distraction. I can relax.
Yeah.
I don't have to be anything. I can't make an appointment right now. There's nobody I can call. There's nothing. I can't work on a thing because everyone else is asleep. So I like that quiet and like calm of the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. But of course, I need a lot of sleep. So I'm in bed till 11 or noon. But then I beat myself up for that because it's like, what a lazy piece of shit. But it's like, if you do the math, like I'm only in bed for 8 hours.
Right.
But
it's just a different schedule.
And then I have to get up and like rush to do all these things. And I have only a short window of daytime.
Right.
And then I can get anxious about like, there's not enough time to do all the things so it's just like this continuous cycle.
And the anxiety will just provoke to stay in bed more. Well, like what you were saying of like, I have to call the plumber, I have to call the doctor, I have to do all this stuff that I'm literally years behind on. And it's the worst feeling. Ugh. Yeah. I relate to that so hard.
So bed rot, I feel like I do it every day, even though I'm not really doing it every day.
Well, it sounds like you're sleeping. That's not bed rot.
Yes. So bed rot is like when you stay in bed like all day.
Yeah,
I feel like I could do that easily. I have to force myself not to do that.
And I don't think I don't think bed rotting is a bad thing, but I do think it's interesting that it's become a term that is just sort of like how do I say this without trying to sound too like philosophical, but like bed rotting is something that everybody's heard the term. At least anybody under the age of 45 has heard the term. And they know what it is and they do it. But it's like, if I am bed rotting and I post a cute little TikTok about it, it's like, does that make it okay? You know, because now it's like, I've acknowledged that I'm bed rotting, but it feels like a bad thing that is just being kind of like manufactured into being like this cute thing that we all do, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think it's more of like a women term? Do you think men?
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting because like I've lived with a few men that either I was dating or not dating. I have a roommate right now who is just a platonic roommate. And on the weekends, he'll sleep a ton. And it's just like for him, it's like I'm catching up. Like there's no guilt involved in that. He's like, I work really hard all week. I burn both ends of the candle. He's a comic and he gets to work at like 7 a.m. So some nights he's in bed at 1. He has to be up by 6. Like he's just catching up on sleep.
Right.
But he would never like guilt himself into being like, oh, I stayed in bed all day today. What a piece of shit. He's like, no, that felt amazing. It was so great to like just let myself. He doesn't have that.
Yeah.
I think I truly think it's a man versus woman mentality. Like if I'm not going, I'm a piece of shit. But if men are like, I literally let myself sleep because I needed sleep. Like there's not that same association with that.
No, I think
like my dad would sit on the couch all weekend. He would couch rot.
Yeah.
But my mom would she would never do that.
Never.
She would. There was too much to do.
Right.
But so I think these women are like guilting themselves into just literally relaxing sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like taking a
relaxing
damn break.
has to have like a cute word for it so that we do it. Yeah. Oh man. I know. I hate feeling bad for relaxing.
It's hard to do.
It's a terrible feeling. I used to do the thing where I would think about, I did this in school a lot, where it's like I have, let's say, a paper that's due and I have 5 days to do it, and it's like Sunday night, and maybe the paper's due on Friday, and I'm just trying to sit on a Sunday and relax. But I told myself that I was going to do some studying on Sunday, and then I heard something. It was on television, because I remember being younger when I heard it, like maybe in my 20s, that was like, if you just let yourself go and just resign yourself to the fact that you are not studying tonight, you can just enjoy the time off, and you're actually getting the time off, and you just have to trust yourself that now that you still have 4 more days to complete the task that needs to get done, you're not doing it on Sunday, you're just relaxing, then you probably will go into the next 4 days getting it done, which once I realized that like that is something I can do, it really helped a lot. But I am the world's biggest procrastinator.
Yeah.
Like for a roast battle, I could have 4 weeks notice that a roast is coming up, and it's the weekend before, the day of, and like I'll do like little bits of research. I'll check out my opponent's Instagram, I'll scroll through it, okay, and then maybe like a week before I'm like, all right, well let's write a few ideas down, but like the real nitty gritty of the writing is getting done 48 hours before the show.
Same.
And that's like a big runway.
Yeah.
You know,
I've always needed like, and I think that's where sports and the busy schedule helped.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't, there's no room to do that.
Yeah.
But I really do well with the deadline.
Yeah.
I need to have like a hard stop, or else it's just going to go forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pressure makes a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
It's a common sentiment, but oh man. So, do you think when it comes to like realizing that you maybe or like are someone with ADHD, do you think that plays into like how you eat? Like, are you somebody that's consistent with eating?
It's one of those things that feels really hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've been eating a lot of the same foods over and over. Like I have fixation meals and same like fixation groceries. I'll go to the store and it's like, if I just get the same things, it makes my life a lot easier. And if I just make the same things, but then it becomes really like a task now. Eating is a task because I don't necessarily want to eat the things that I'm eating, but it's just the easiest things.
Yeah.
So I'm in a bit of a rut right now where it's like, I just don't even care about eating.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, well you could go out to a restaurant or order food in, but then it's like the decision paralysis of like, I'm only doing this one time this week maybe.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what am I going to enjoy the most? So I get into this like craziness of like, what's the best thing that I could possibly get right now? It's like, just order something to eat. You need to eat.
Yeah. It's like you're creating tax debt for something that doesn't need to have a debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're putting all these extra things on it.
Yeah. Like in my dream world, I would have someone that like would just order all the things. I'd have like a chef that just like, this is what you like. Mm-hmm. This is what would be great for your body type or like your whatever. You need a lot of protein. You need this or that, nutrients. And then they would just do it. And I would just eat it.
Yeah.
Like that would be like the best case scenario. I keep making jokes like, I need a nanny. And I can't imagine like a lot of my friends my age have kids. Yeah. And it's like, I have so much respect because I feel like I would just, if I were a mom and I had kids to look after, like I would do it very well, but I would be like 8th on the list.
Yeah.
I would not take care of myself.
Sounds like you already are.
Sometimes it's like, I can't imagine having other people to do things for. Yeah. And also myself. It's like, I'd need a nanny, then they'd need a nanny. And then the nannies would need a nanny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what is happening? I have a lot of respect for people who can like handle it all and like have the kids and take care of themselves and like prioritize their needs. It's like,
so with the rigidness of like being an athlete, like what that gave you in your schedule of having like something to do constantly, like your day being mapped out, you graduate college, what happens next?
I remember feeling very lost because I went to grad school a little bit later. I think I was like 26 or 27 when I went to grad school, but I didn't have like a real solid idea of like what I thought I wanted to do. It was just like an opportunity arose. Someone basically was like, summarized the things that I had said I liked. And they're like, I think you would like student affairs. I'm like, okay. Yeah. I really never really thought about what I wanted to do with my life. And I think sports had played a role in that because for all those years, there's no individuality. You show up, you wear the uniform, you participate in the team thing. You do what's good for the group. And it's like, I was really I'm the youngest child. So like, you're constantly like, no one's asking you what you want to do. No one's asking you how you feel. It's like, you do it, the group, you don't stand out. So it's like, after that, I was like, I don't even know anything about myself. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I'm doing. So I ended up coaching for several years because it's like, that's what I'm good at. People offered me this position. And so it's like, that makes sense. I can do that. I already know I'm good at it.
Yeah.
So I just did a lot of that where it's like doors open and I just walked through it.
Right.
But it's like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I still feel like,
yeah.
I feel like comedy was the first thing that I found that was like, oh, I actually really enjoy this. It's not, something that my brothers did or my teammates did. It's like, I actually enjoy this for myself.
You came into it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
It's crazy to think that way, but.
Well, I mean, especially when you may have had some kind of like neurodivergency at play, it kind of makes sense why you would just kind of try to fall in line in a way just to continually get by. So where were you living before New York City?
So I was back in Western New York then. But so I have to kind of like go way back. I've been married before. I've been divorced.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I sometimes forget about. And then, I have these conversations. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a big part of my story.
Yeah.
So, after college, I worked at a university coaching basketball. My, like office mate, we shared an office that was smaller than this. So we were constantly like on top of each other. Her husband was very close friends with my husband.
Okay.
So I met my ex-husband through them.
Okay.
And we did not live in the same city. So like when you know someone who's very close with another group of people, like you get to know each other very quickly and like
Absolutely.
There's a trust there. So we got engaged very fast, had a long engagement, but we never lived in the same city. So we got married and then I moved to Minnesota.
Okay.
Started grad school. And he was the one that was like, oh, I think you might like student affairs because you like all these other things.
Yeah.
And I had studied K-12 art in undergrad. And I didn't want to be in the K-12 setting.
Right.
And they're like, well, you like all these things. I think you might like it in the college setting.
Right.
So that's kind of, and then we were married for like 3 years, maybe a little less than that. But I immediately knew that it was not the right choice.
Like, what, before you were getting married or after you got married?
I think it dawned on me like at my wedding reception.
Oh, that's crazy.
Which is insane.
What? Can you take me through that?
Yeah.
Like walk me through. You're
Yeah.
married.
Yeah.
You're at the reception. Was it like a big, beautiful wedding?
It was small, relatively small, but like
a wedding.
Yeah, wedding. Like
it was
a lot went into it. But I remember like being resistant to planning it. And I think, of course, ADHD, like that, the whole task of doing all that is daunting.
Monumental.
I didn't have a preference on flowers. So like now you have all these decisions to make. And I'm like, I don't really care.
Right.
Like make it look nice.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care. And it's like all this money that I had no concept of like what these things cost and like negotiating and doing all these adult things at 26.
Yeah.
When I did not feel like an adult, I still felt like I was figuring out like,
yeah, you were not.
What am I doing?
You were not an adult
not
at 20.
at all.
Not like no one is an adult at 26.
So I'm like, I'd never really thought twice about like what I wanted this day to be like. And all of a sudden now I'm planning it in the city that I lived. My soon to be husband did not live in the same city. So it's like, it was on me to like call these places and do these things. And he was pushing, from as he did the best he could. He was doing his part. He was like, please go and see this place. So he was doing all the work, but I had to actually facilitate because I was in that city.
Yeah, of course.
But I think, so I picked a man who was excellent on paper, terrific human being, wonderful family, very easygoing, because my family was such a mess. Like my parents were so chaotic where it's like that's not what I want. I don't want that. I know that I don't want that. So I picked the thing that wasn't that.
Right.
And I think once we got married and I realized, like I made the logical choice here. I thought this was the right decision, but I felt it in my gut the minute that I saw him like walking around talking to our guests. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Wow.
And I'm like, that is an insane thing to do. You're just married and you don't want to walk around with your husband to say hello to everyone. And it's like, okay, I think that's why. Yeah. I didn't want to be part of that.
So after the reception, did you have moments of like, I don't know what I was thinking in that moment. Like, I think I do want this. Were you trying to convince yourself?
Yeah. I'm trying to gaslight myself the whole time to be like, what is wrong with you? Like, what a lovely man you have. What a patient, kind, beautiful person that wanted to marry you. Mm-hmm. Wonderful family. I was really good friends with his sister. Like, I was just so grateful to have this welcoming, awesome family. And then, like, as time went on, like, I was very clear with him. I think we got married and I moved to Minnesota and cried for like months.
Yeah.
And I would go in waves where it's like, what is going on? What is happening? Like, okay, you missed your friends. That's what's happening.
Right.
Oh, you're away from your family for the first time. That's what's happening. And I tried to like, oh, you don't have a job. You don't have things set up yet. You haven't started school, which is, you don't have a purpose here. Like, that's why you're sad. So I tried to like fill that sadness with like all these explanations when it's like, you just don't, you picked a thing that is not
right
what you should be doing.
Right. And so you, after 3 years, got out of that. And then that's how you came back over to the East Coast?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like, I was somehow very upfront with him right away to be like, I don't think this is was not the right choice. Like, and he was very sweet and kind to be like, okay, let's try to make this better. Like, what can we do? And eventually we went to therapy together. And the therapist was like, I think you should come back alone.
Yeah,
to me.
just you.
And, I went for several sessions. We talked about like childhood mom stuff. She gave me like, and at that point it's like, there's nothing to fix here. Like,
yeah,
there was nothing wrong. And that's like the hardest part about having like a massive breakup like that of a marriage, where it's like, he didn't do anything wrong. He did everything right. It was just not the right thing for me to be. You can't like create this loving relationship when I don't even know who I am. I have no, idea of what I'm looking for in someone else. I don't even know myself enough to pick a partner. It's like, he did nothing wrong. There was nothing to fix in therapy.
Right.
It was all just me trying to force this perfect looking thing onto a situation that it just didn't fit.
Yeah, I see people get married young, and I wonder, like, did you go through the therapy? Like, did you do the healing that is needed? Because again, like with therapy and healing being stigmatized, it's like, I don't have problems. I don't need to fix myself. Meanwhile, you're like,
honestly, I didn't realize a lot of the trauma that I had until I started comedy.
Really? Because of like
I had a fine childhood. Yeah. We had everything we needed. We had family. We did sports. We did all the things that we could possibly want to do. We had food on our table. We had money to do things. It's like, what am I complaining about? But it's like, I had just shoved all the other shit.
Yeah. Back.
I just didn't remember any of it.
Right. Because and that is part of where when you have childhood trauma, which I think everyone does, but whatever. When you have childhood trauma, the coping mechanisms like that because I remember staying up late a lot as a kid. And I think it was because I was like maybe trying to like hear if there was like an argument happening, or like I was finally alone and I felt safe. So like, and I had all the same things. Parents still together, like great family, really close with my grandparents, like we all ate dinner together at the table every night, like but there was still all this extra stuff happening that like seems pretty normal, because it seems like everybody's talking about they dealt with some weird shit when they were kids. Okay. And so am I correct in assuming that you and Scott Hall are still dating? Okay. Scott Hall, former guest of the show. And it's funny, now you're dating somebody that has some sordid childhood stuff.
And it's so insane because he understands me. Yeah. And I understand him in a way that I don't think someone who didn't have some fucked up stuff happen to them would understand. Like, this is the only way I can really explain it. It's like he gentle parents me.
Oh, okay.
He really does. He makes me feel okay when I'm like spiraling, where it's like I've been in other relationships where I didn't even give them an opportunity to help me or make me feel okay about it, because I just didn't feel safe enough to let them. And it was not about them. It was entirely about me letting them into that
and how you felt
and seeing
your safety.
it, because they didn't have any of that. They had a beautiful family, or they didn't have of course they had their own things and trauma or whatever, but like I just felt like I couldn't explain to them like this is why I am doing these things, and this is, you know, I would just try to make it fine, and I would suffer on my own. I didn't need to let them know that I was suffering. But Scott is someone that like, he just allows me to be whatever I need to be, and he's very sweet and very like patient about it.
That's amazing.
It's really, I've never been with someone that makes me feel like safe to be like a little bit messy.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Yeah. It's like when you're dating somebody that kind of isn't able, like they have the ability to not feel like you're attacking them for your chaoticness or whatever package that comes in. That's interesting that you feel like he gentle parents you. I love that. It sounds 100%. Like that's, yeah.
I was talking about something with a coworker and she goes, "Oh my God, he's so good for you. He's literally gentle parenting you." And I'm like, he really is. You know, if I feel chaotic or crazy or scattered, it's never like, get your shit together. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, if you were to, you know, tell him that, you know, you're waking up later on in the day and you still haven't called the plumber or whatever, like, what good is it going to do to have a boyfriend that screams at you about that? Like, you don't need that.
I don't think I've ever been with anyone who would scream at me, but like, they just necessarily wouldn't understand why that's so hard to do. Like, what's hard about making that phone call? Yeah. But he's like, you're doing it. You got a lot going on. Like, it's okay.
That's so nice.
And like that phone, I did all those things today. I made 2 doctor's appointments that I've literally put off for 2 years.
Wow.
I called the guy to snake our drain. I did one other thing. It's like, because he made me feel like I could do it. Like, it's fine. You can do it. Do it tomorrow if you want to. Like, you know,
giving yourself a break. Yeah. Literally. It's like, resign yourself that you may not get something done today. So it's like, just enjoy it. And it's like, oh, well, once I realize that like the option to not do it is there, now I might do it, you know?
Yeah. Wow. He's constantly reminding me like we do a weird thing. Like we have careers that are like, there's no roadmap. And it's like, we can be very hard on ourselves about like getting enough done, not doing enough, feeling like a lazy piece of shit, like seeing no progress and like working for a thing that you don't even know if it's going to happen. He's like, so give yourself a freaking break.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about all these little things. And so he's just, he's really, really good at understanding. And I think he would say the same, like he feels like I understand him in a way that I don't know if a lot of people would.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. So are you still in therapy now?
No.
Yeah.
And I think
another appointment to call.
Honestly, that's really the fear of it. I don't think, and I think it's the fear of not being understood.
Because it is like dating.
It is like dating. You got to find the right match. You got to figure out, you know, and it's possible. You can do it. It's just, I feel anxious about like going through that process.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot, like, I hate to say it, but I've done a lot of like my own work. Like you can do your own therapy.
Yeah.
But it just takes a little longer.
Right.
And I think I could use some help.
Yeah, to guide you along. For sure.
I'm just really anxious about finding that right match and being aware enough where I could be like, okay, this is not the right match and move on instead of like being in the wrong one for a long time.
Yeah.
And feeling like, ugh, about it.
Yeah. I feel like for myself, when it came to finding therapists, it was like, okay, we're at critical mass. Like this is untenable for me to continue unless I speak with somebody. Like my mental health is at a place where it's like, I'm burning everything down around me. Like I need to get in to see somebody. And that's always been how I've found whoever I'm seeing. And because not only is it like dating, it's also like the insurance aspect. If you're going to find somebody like there's so much that goes into it. And so it becomes a task debt kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That honestly, if cost was not a problem, like I just made a dentist appointment, but in my brain, I'm like, my teeth hurt. Like of course I've got cavities probably, and I probably need a root canal, and maybe they have to pull my teeth out. Like how much is that going to cost? Like in my brain, I've already made all these assumptions about like, oh, this is going to be a huge cost. Yeah. Even though I have insurance. So it's like, I have this unresolved anxiety of like, can I afford this? And I've probably put this off, not even because it was a phone call, but because like I have this fear of like, can I afford this like basic care
totally relate
that I
to
need? So I'm putting off a lot of things, probably a lot of the reason is for cost. So it's like, can I afford this thing? Am I going to get to a place where I'm relying on therapy and then I can't afford it? And like, what am I going to do then?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just easier to like, okay, maybe I can just manage for as long as I can alone. Yeah. It's not rational. Yeah. To some extent, but it's like that's where it's coming from, I think, is really the cost of. Yeah,
absolutely. I so relate to that. Just the fear of the cost of it being something like the idea. And it's always so much more expensive in your mind than what the actual cost is. Yeah. And even when the actual cost is something that is like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that and I can't afford it because I didn't realize I was going to need a root canal or whatever. There's payment plans. Yeah. There's ways that they help. It's fine. They get it. You know, the dentist office isn't going to tell you that you're a piece of garbage because you don't have $3,500 in your bank account to pay for whatever the procedure is. Like, you can get on a payment plan. Literally, I'm speaking from real life events because I did that too. Yeah. I put off going to the dentist for years, literal years. And in some of those years that I was putting off the dentist, I had dental insurance. So I could have been going in for cleanings every 6 months, but I wasn't allowing myself to because I was afraid that if I went and they found something, then I would have to pay for the thing that they found and they wouldn't let me ignore it, and and it snowballed and it went into this greater, bigger thing that it didn't have to be. And I feel so much better now that I finally went to the dentist. I feel like so much fixed in my life because I went to the dentist and I got it sorted and I was able to go through it. And like, even that is a bit of like a privileged thing to say because it's like, okay, fine, I went on the payment plan. I can afford the payment plan, you know, which there are people that can't do that. But for myself, I made it this whole thing that it didn't have to be. And you know what's funny? So I went to the dentist. So I'm like, everybody needs to go to the dentist. So I'm telling Joe, like, go to the fucking dentist. Because also I can see he needs it, you know, whatever. So he finally goes. He gets a cleaning. He's like, no cavities, no nothing. I'm like, you bitch. I needed 2 root canals.
I think that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, but you will feel so much better once it's over. So much better.
I know because I've woken up every day at some point in my day for the last 2 years, I think, to be like, just why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? What are you doing? What are you doing? So it's like I have this lingering like anxiety. Yeah.
Do you get like I get these like surges of just like, okay, I'm doing it. Do you just get like I
think that's what today was. It's like, you've been putting this off. It's like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do this. And it's like, you're punishing yourself for what? Yeah. So it's like, today just sit down and do it. And I had other things that it's an anxiety, like ADHD trait where it's like, I constantly get distracted. So I'll like, so for instance, today, and I've done this a few times where I sat down to figure out, okay, who can I go to with my insurance? And I would go to the insurance, find a doctor. Yeah. And then that I couldn't, like, I remember I put in mammogram and like, it doesn't find anything. So like, okay, I don't know how do I even find someone to give me a mammogram? Like, how does this work? So it's like, I can get so bogged down by these little things. So today I'm like, just call the number on your card. And it was like an automated thing about the dentist. They sent me a link that dentists in my area that were covered. I'm like, okay. So I just sent a request. Lady called me right back. Wow. And I'm like, thank God you called me, because if I had to wait 3 days to get a phone call back and I missed the phone call, and then all of a sudden it's like, now you're back at square one. You have to start this thing all over again. And then I call again to be like, okay, I am struggling. I don't know how to find a person to give me a mammogram. Can you help me? And she's like, oh, you have to search radiology. And I'm like, okay, good to know. I didn't know that. Yeah.
And it feels like there should be an answer key on the website for that.
Maybe if you type in mammogram, it'll just filter you to radiology. Right. So yeah, but it's like, it's easy to get, you have to do all these different things to just make the appointment. Yeah. Where I've been distracted before of being like, okay, I don't know who's in my coverage area. Who can I go to? Blah, blah, blah. But today I'm like, just do it. Just do not. And then a few things came up where I'm like, oh, I have to post this thing for Instagram for my stupid comedy show. It's like, no. This is more important. Do not do this. Because I allow myself to get distracted by the low hanging fruit. Yes. Because you can feel good about like, I can accomplish that. So let me do it. And at least I'll feel good about getting something done. Yeah. Or like, oh, I need to empty the dishwasher. Let me do that because I can like check it off and like feel like I did something. But if you do that all day, every day,
then you're really not getting
you're
anything
never
done.
getting anything of substance done. So I'm like, a few times throughout the day today, I was in the middle of these bigger tasks and I was like, ooh, let me text this person back or let me go do this or that thing. And I'm like, I resisted today, which I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
And I think truly, if I were on medication, it'd be easier to like do that without all the effort that it takes otherwise, where it's like I'm not constantly having these little like distractions pop up.
Yeah.
But yeah, today was just like, okay, you've been putting this off, like you have the time today, and I think there's also part of me that's like, and I think this was part of the pandemic where I tried to make a few doctor's appointments during the pandemic and there was such a shortage of like in-person appointments where it was like, okay, you can have an appointment in 6 months. And I'm like, I can't plan 6 months ahead. Right. I don't know.
That appointment's going to get rescheduled.
Yes. And I'm like, the anxiety of like, I don't know what I'm going to be. Am I going to even be living here in 6 months? Like, but I have an appointment Monday and Thursday of next week.
Wow. Look at you.
What the fuck was I waiting all this time for?
You did that.
It's going to get taken care of within a week. And I'm like, I'm so grateful. I feel such a relief even having, have something on the calendar. I feel like, such a weight lifted.
And then once the weight is lifted, you're sitting here asking yourself, what the hell took me so long to do that?
Yeah. 2 years worth of anxiety to just do 2 hours worth of annoying.
Yeah, totally. Are you a bad texter? Are you bad at getting back to people?
No. But I allow those to be distractions. Like I'll get back to you right away.
Yeah.
As like a thing that I can get done.
Right.
Because if I don't get back to you right away, I might forget and then it becomes several days. So I try to get back to people right away, but that gives me anxiety because I'm probably putting off doing something else that needs to get done to get back to you so I don't leave you waiting.
Totally. I'm opposite. Yeah. I have to have my phone. My phone is never not on some form of do not disturb. Like from 9 to 5 is work in work mode. I need to do that. 9 to 5 is work mode. And then 11:30 to 7:30 is sleep mode. Now, I'm not sleeping during that time because I'm up at 3 a.m. and I'm like peeling my eyes open at 8:45 to get to sit at my desk, at 9. And I need to have it so that like people know like you sent this text, but like she's not going to get it right away. And I am so grateful for those features because I same thing I do with my work email. If something comes in and it's going to require a lot of my brain energy, I need to leave it as unread so that I know I have to get back to it because my kryptonite is clicking on an email and maybe not like I get distracted. So I don't answer them back or I make a mental note of, okay, like ask this person about that and then get back to them. And at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, my inbox is 0. That means I got everything done. And it's like, no. And then all of a sudden I'll be like chilling and I'm like, fuck, I forgot to get back to that person, Ugh.
Yeah, I don't work a normal job anymore, but when I first moved here, I was working a sales job from home. High anxiety, high like numbers.
Yeah, KPIs.
Quotas, etc. And I would get up and I would go right to my desk and I would be in anxiety mode all day long.
All day.
Because it was so easy for me to be like, oh, Slack message, reply to that. Oh, email, reply to that. And I was constantly like putting out little fires instead of prioritizing like, I'm not going to look at my email box for the next hour because I'm going to do this thing. It was constantly like bouncing around and I never got anything done. So I was really bad at that job, but I was constantly nervous.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Making someone wait for me or like not getting back because then it looks like I'm not working.
Yep.
Because work from home is such a trap that way.
I know. My manager, she's such a good manager. Like she's the best. And she literally, because she kind of knows that we're all kind of like that, honestly, where we're putting out little fires that need to be put out. But like, we get really wrapped up in that stuff. So for our team, like each of us has a day that we're assigned once a week. So like it's me and my other coworker, we're on Thursdays. She's like, your asses are on do not disturb. If you need to put like an email autoresponder out where you tell them like, you know, you're in the field or whatever you're doing, and you're going to be checking emails from 12 to 1 or 1 to 2 or whenever your email hour is, set your autoresponder out. And, you know, if it's urgent, which is like, what the fuck even is urgent?
Right.
But if it's urgent, they can call you, you know, but like heads down, look at your book, you know, focus on this shit. And I'm like, literally, it has changed my life when she implemented that, because it's like the whole thing we were talking about of starting from a blank slate. Like, because I had the permission and was told this is what your every Thursday is going to look like for you, I was like, oh, I can work with that. And then, you know, I'm able to actually do the tasks of my title instead of just like dealing with the emails that come in. So I feel you
addressing everybody else's needs.
Yes.
Because that could be a whole full-time job. It's like just getting back to everyone that needs something.
Yeah.
Instead of doing your actual job.
Yeah. And it's like, and part of my job is addressing people's needs. But the other part of my job, and the part of my job that makes me money, is by working my book and like reaching out to people to try to get them to use us more. It's like, well, that's another thing of like, am I gonna prioritize myself?
Yep.
Brings us right back around to where we started. Oh, man. Thank you so much for being so candid and coming on with your great stories. I can believe, but like you're being an athlete in college, that's no joke.
Yeah.
I really appreciate our conversation. I do feel like I talked too much, so I apologize if that happened.
Like there are food things that we didn't touch on. I think I have used food to like be comfortable at times, but
no,
many others.
We got some time if you want to.
I don't know. I think I definitely, so like as a kid, because there were some of those you can't have rules. Like we didn't have candy in the house really, but like we obviously could have candy. Like Halloween, I would like eat a piece every day. Like my Halloween candy would last like months. But I do remember like going to family parties and like, or even like college parties. I wouldn't drink because I would be just eating fucking Doritos. Because I would like finally give myself permission to be like, oh, there's Doritos here. Like I would just fixate on like, oh, I'm going to eat a fucking dozen slices of pizza. Yeah. Because I have access to pizza. And it wasn't to the point where I was like, listen.
Binging or like.
Just, out of anxiety or like whatever. I don't know. I guess I haven't really ever gotten to the like root of that. But I remember, I think I was at like a basketball camp after college. I graduated from college and they asked me to come in and like work at the high school. And at the end of the day for the camp, there was pizza for the campers. And I remember like being like, yes, I can fucking destroy some pizza right now. And I was like, Sarah, you have $10 in your bank account. Like if you want pizza tomorrow, you can have pizza tomorrow. Right. You can have pizza the day after tomorrow. You can have pizza literally every day for the rest of your life if you want to have pizza. Like you don't have to go fucking crazy right now because there's pizza accessible to you. Right. So it's like I had to tell myself that over and over until I was like, okay, I don't need to do this. I don't need to make myself sick. Yeah. But you were able to tell yourself that you don't need to do this. Yeah. Because that is such a hard thing to come to terms with, to realize that like it's when you have a propensity to take the things that are there, like Doritos at a party or like pizza at an event, it's so hard to stop yourself when you have this sort of like scarcity mindset around it. I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Because I would go to like family parties as well. And like, I remember making myself sick on like M&Ms. Right. And like, if you're an adult watching this kid go crazy on M&Ms, it's kind of funny and it was cute. And I was like the youngest of my family. So like, she's good. Yeah. But in my brain, it's like, I need to eat these all right now because I'm going to go home and there's going to be no M&Ms. Right. And I don't know when I'm going to have M&Ms again. Oh my God. But like in college, I would do the same thing at the dining hall where it's like, I'm going to overeat now at dinner because like the dining hall is going to close at 7. And like, I don't know. Yeah. I probably don't have much in my room or I'm not going to eat. And I'm probably going to stay up all night and like whatever. Right. So it's like finally I could tell myself like if I'm hungry after 7, I can go and get a sandwich.
Yeah, there's places to get food.
I have a car. I can go to Wegmans. Yeah. I can go wherever I need to go. I'm not going to starve. Yeah. But like there was some survival instinct in my brain that was like, I'm going to just eat as much as I can right now because like, I don't know what it's going to look like. But it's like, we don't need to do that. We're not like cavemen. Like we have access. You can get a sandwich, you can get a smoothie, there's stuff open late. Like, what are you doing? So I had to literally tell myself like, this is unnecessary behavior. This is crazy behavior.
Were you feeling bad that you were doing that? Like, how did you get to the point where you were able to say this is unnecessary?
I would feel sick for sure.
You'd get sick. Yeah.
I would just be like, I just could tell, like, it was not, I was like fixated on it.
Yeah.
And like, I had to stop, like, I couldn't buy ice cream or chips because I would like wake up in the morning and be like, yes. And I would like have a scoop of ice cream to start the day, or like I would buy chips and like within a day I've eaten the whole bag of chips.
Right.
Because it's like, I couldn't not just eat them all.
Interesting.
Where I would like, it was like a joke in my friend group where it's like, I remember being in the dining hall and like, and it became like a joke. Like I was the clown. So it's like, so I would lean into that too, where it's like, oh, I'm going to eat all this because it's funny to do. Yeah. But like, I remember.
Fun bit.
Yeah. It's a crazy bit. Like, oh, look at her. She's going to eat it. Dare her to eat it. She'll eat it. It's like, I will fucking eat it. But it's like, it's not healthy. There's something going on there.
Right.
But like in our dining hall, they would take the leftovers from the day before and just put it in a casserole dish and put cheese over it and like heat it up. And I would constantly be eating that. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I was punishing myself by eating the trash food. Yeah. But then my friends thought it was funny, so I would keep doing it. And I remember like, now that I'm talking about it, I remember there were times where I would like have to pour water on my food.
To stop yourself.
Yeah. To be like, I don't need to eat all this. I don't even like it. What am I doing?
Wow.
But it like got a laugh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking eat this garbage food.
You should have gone on like Fear Factor.
Oh my God.
You're like, it's here. I have to eat it.
I'm gonna do it.
When will I ever have pig intestines again?
I just had a flashback. I remember being at a meal for our sports team. So we'd like, you know, for volleyball, you would go away for tournaments and you'd be gone for the weekend. So you'd obviously eat all your meals with the team. And my freshman year, I don't know what I was doing, but we were at a restaurant and I was, you know, there's a comic and I think it's Louis C.K. where he's like, the meal's not over when I'm finished. It's over when I hate myself. Like that. I did that every meal. Right. Where it's like, now they would laugh about it. And it's like, I told my coach once that it was like, I saw eating as like a sport. Right. Like, you're not going to beat me. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to win this meal. And I would just eat as much as I could.
Just clearing everybody's plates.
But it wasn't alarming to anyone because I was thin.
Right. It wasn't like it was showing on you.
No, I wasn't like throwing up. I wasn't like, so it's like, oh, that's just not harmful behavior. Like, it's funny. Yeah. But I was masking, I was obviously filling a void of like some emotional need that wasn't being met. Right. Family was fucked up. Like, no one knew anything that I came from a bad place or like my family was fucked up.
Do you think you even knew? You said you didn't.
I really didn't know.
Yeah,
I never looked at that behavior to be like, oh, there's something else going on here.
You just took it out on the spaghetti dinner.
I had no idea. No idea. So obviously, if I didn't know, and if people thought there was something going on, they would never have said anything. Right. I looked fine. Right. Seemed happy. I was a clown. Like I was always seemed happy.
Jovial.
But yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, it makes sense using food to mask an insecurity or an emotion, but you don't even know that you're masking. And oh man. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that was very, it was very of the podcast to have that kind of experience. So thank you so much. We are going to wrap up. So where can people find you?
Instagram at funny Sara Shipley, SARA. At funnysarashipley.com will kind of point you in all the social media directions.
Awesome. Great. Everything will be in the description of the show so that you can go and follow Sara. And guys, this has been I Feel Fat Today, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.